Hello folks, my name is Kevin Toppenberg. Welcome to my channel. This is my South Bend lathe. It's got a 15-inch swing and a 6-foot bed. I've previously restored this and I have some other videos on that if you're interested in watching. But today this video is going to be about a chip guard or a chip tray or chip catcher. Turns out when you're cutting with a lathe, chips go everywhere. And this lathe, when it was manufactured, did not come with any accommodation for that. I think on subsequent models, they would have this leg kind of bisected. There would be a lower part and then a tray and then an upper part. But this doesn't have anything like that. And even that, the trays would only be for chips going downward. It wouldn't do anything to catch oil that was slinging against the wall. So this video is going to be all about making a chip guard. Kind of started from scratch and put a bunch of parts together, and I'd like to show you how I did it. This isn't necessarily the best way or the only way, but it's the way that I did it. And if you want to see my experience on that, come along. I'm walking around in my local scrapyard, seeing if I can find some supplies to make the frame. All kinds of cool stuff here. I see a big old wheel like that. It's just a lot of history. Like a kid in a candy store. I found this sheet metal, which would be easy to fold. I'm not sure if that's too thin. It would just end up getting bent, even if it was stretched over a frame. Think about using these little thin pieces. They got these by the pallet, and then maybe make some 3D printed connectors. Ooh, the rain's starting to come down more. I'm getting wet. Just got out here, I hate to leave. It started pouring down. This might work for me. I don't have a caliper to check the gauge. That looks like that would be something I could bend. So I think I'm going to work on getting my frame set up and then maybe come back and get some of those. Here are the connectors that I made in OpenSCAD to connect the square tubes. I started out with this. If you notice, there's a little bit of taper between the base and the top, so that it will slide into that tube easier. Then I've got mounting holes. So the next one, this is if I was gonna connect two of them end to end. T-joint, so a 3-way corner. Here'd be a simple elbow. This one I call a signet ring because I think about a finger going through there and this being a diamond. This is for when I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get all the way around it. I could just snap it on there. All my connectors printed out well last night. It's cool. I'm printing out a mounting bracket there. I made some very rough measurements of the end legs of my lathe. This is the tailstock end. And let's see what we got here. And here I have this device. So this will go into that mounting hole. Hopefully this will press up against the top of the legs. There's a little ridge there, and hopefully that'll keep it from rotating, pivoting on that hole. So I'm hoping this and this and this will make a like 3 points so it can't rotate. And then through there, I'm gonna put my square tubing, and then I've got 2 little legs which will hopefully wrap around the sides and also keep it from rotating. My slicer, see it there, says it's gonna be 7 hours and 37 minutes to print. This is what each layer that it's gonna print looks like that. Builds it up layer by layer. And then, very likely, it won't exactly fit and I'll have to adjust it and print it another one. But that's okay. Okay, it's finally done. Have to pull off the supports. Okay, so here's the end of my lathe. And when I was getting the support material out, I was having to push through the rod, and I was hammering it and stuff, and I ended up breaking off one of the legs. So I could epoxy that on, but when I go to put it on here, the leg's width is wide enough at the top, but it's not wide enough for the base because it flares out here a little bit. I don't even know if I really need the leg. And now the hole, in order to get it to match up, I may end up having to snap this side off too. I think that actually will work. If I get this hot with a heat gun, this thing will become soft, and I probably can make it flare out just a little bit to fit on there, and then not worry about the leg on the back side. That did it. See how it flared that out just a little bit? That's what it needed. Nice. So I got that mounted. I've got it this long just to kind of see what kind of torque I can put on it. The mount itself does not seem to be moving that long, and it's only going to go, you know, out maybe 2 feet or 1.5 feet out the back. I think that's going to work. Okay, so my goal is going to be, certainly has to clear this. So I think I'm going to take this back, you know, somewhere along here. So we're going to have this come back about here. I'll cut this part off here. I'll secure it with those 2 screws there. And then I'll put a corner on here to go up. And then I'll have another piece go that way. So it's going to be a 3-way. And then my next goal is to figure out what I'm going to do to fasten that on the other end. I've been making these connectors, and I've made this one with a thicker wall here so that this can go in there, and that just a little bit can stick out, and then it'll go into, there was just a little bit of thread left on the back side, so I'm going to put this one on there as well, and I'll have 2 going through, and that'll give it some support from flopping around. So I've got that there, got this piece, so I'm going to have one that comes out from here, and then I'll make a corner to come up to there. I've got those pieces, used that square to make sure this is roughly up and down. And then up here, I've got a level. Now I'm going to cut that off and put a corner there. So I've decided my vertical pieces are going to be 32 inches. I've got one that goes from here down to the lower rail. And now I'm going to put this one, and I have made a jig that goes in like a cap on the end, and then it's got a guide to drill the hole so that matches up with the hole in the sides of those. I'll put this piece on the corner, put that in there, and I can see that I'm going to need to square all of this up so that these things are running parallel to the ways. And for right now, I'm putting in a number 8 screw, 1/2 inch long, through the metal pieces into the plastic. All right, let me bring you around. It's kind of hard to show this, but I've got most of a square there now. And by adjusting the length there, I can determine whether it's parallel to these ways, because that point there is going to be fixed. It's hard to measure how far that is from the ways vertically, but I'll come up with something. Now over here, when I come back, I think I want it to end such that I can have the end of the ways and still open up that belt access door. I'll cut that off and then have another vertical go down to there. And then I'll probably have another upright that goes straight down. I made some of those kind of pieces that go around the outside of the square tube. And so I can put one of those here, one of those there, and have some more uprights. And then that will be the support for the sheet metal that goes across the back. Here I'm using this jig where it's the piece that goes in there. It's got the end. You can see I made a snap punch right there, and I'll do the other end. I've decided that rather than cutting it off here, I'm just going to use the full length of that tube, which will take it to just around here. And I think that might work. I'm a little nervous that if I bring it here and I come in, there's going to be chips spraying here, and it's going to be hard to keep this area sealed. So maybe just by going over farther, I'll avoid the problem. I think I'm going to call it there. That's a pretty good progress for one evening. I just started hearing all the rain on the tin roof. I just missed it, but it was lightning and thundering. I've decided I'm going to have to attach that back corner directly to the bell of this head casting. And when I went to model it, I wasn't sure exactly how to get this curved surface, but I measured it and I thought they probably used a 12-inch radius on that. So that's what I used in my model. Then I used this to get the tangent, you know, I kind of put this, so that was tangent, and then that made this horizontal, and that was 55 degrees, and I modeled it and I thought, well, I'll have to probably do it more than once, but it looks like it fits just perfectly. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm gonna drill one hole through there, tap that for a 1/4 and that'll be my mount point. So I wasn't real happy about having to drill into it, but I have learned that if I ever wanna take it out, I can just Bondo it over. Okay, I've got that drilled with a number 7 drill. All right, let me get it tapped. I mentioned before that taps are just so cool. Magic. Here's a better look at this connector. There it's got that 12-inch radius curvature, and I have a counterset hole there for a 1/4 20 cap screw, like that. Well, I'm gonna have to put the camera down, I think, to get that to tighten up straight, but you get the idea. I think that's gonna give me a lot of stability. And I think I've got it measured the right length so that it was parallel. I'm pleased at how this is coming along. It's still night out. There's a cricket over here somewhere. He hears me coming and he stops. I want to mount a rail under here to be an attachment point for the chip pan. So I'm going to bring my camera and look up from there. I've drilled and tapped 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got this bar here that's about the right length. I've got 4 holes in it, and I've got those pieces. Each one of those pieces has a through hole. There's a through hole, and that will allow the bolt to go all the way through and come out here and screw into that. Now, this is bigger than the cap head of this bolt. I'll push this all the way through here, and it'll counter seat. There's a little counter seat up in that plastic, and it will stick out there and screw in. And then when I'm all done, this bar, these parts then will be attached to the frame, but this thing would be able to slide back and forth, and then I can drill and put a machine screw through there to fix that. Well, I've been struggling with this for about 5 minutes, and I think that my holes don't all exactly line up. In other words, I think the hole in here is off just a little bit relative to the hole in there, because I can get 3 of them, but then the 4th one just binds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the hole that's in here bigger. That will let this thing move a little bit and give the whole thing a little bit more play. Okay, after fighting with it some more, I finally got it. I found one problem was that this was slightly too long, and I had to take off about 1/8 of an inch here because it was driving all of the holes that way just a little bit, so they were binding up. So with those 2, I was able to get all of those 4 mounted. Now, this square tube is free to go back and forth at this point. If I could just take those legs off, I could have just slid the whole thing out, and that would have been a lot easier, but I have no plans on getting a lift out here and lifting that up and taking the legs off. So that's why I had to come up with this through solution. All right, so now I should be able to put the under pieces on. All right, let's get these on. I already put one on, and when I first tried it, it was a little long, so I had to trim them. Again, it's hard to measure exactly. Very nice. All right, so if you notice, these are black and these are white, and that's because I ran out of one color filament and started in with another. I think when I bring the metal around, I think that's going to be hidden and it won't matter, or I may reprint them. I'll have to decide. So this is how the frame looks. I have those 4 attached in the front, and I have a rail. Have that attachment there. And coming back here, and then they attach there and up. And I think I'm going to put some more uprights, like here and here, maybe another one here. And then I should be ready to start wrapping it with sheet metal. Near my house, there's a walking trail, and I was out the other morning and found these morning glories, which are just gorgeous. Apparently there's about 1,000 species of flowers that are called morning glory. They're all in the family Convolvulaceae, but just beautiful. Let me show what I've done. Took this piece of cardboard and started with a basic shape, and then I added some more on. I've got this as a wall, and this will come up here and kind of matches with that to make a curved surface, and then it comes around here like this, and that was all designed to go underneath my lathe. I then took some of this galvanized sheet metal that I got, and I drew out all around it the shape of that cardboard and cut that out. And then I bent it up into shape with this, and I did not have a brake, so I essentially took a piece of metal, often something like this, down there, and then just hammered up against there. So it's got a little bit of rippling from the hammer marks, but I think it's overall okay. My problem is that when I went to go put it underneath there, it didn't quite fit. So my job for today is to work on figuring out why it doesn't and making whatever adjustments that I need to do. And I didn't catch all of that on camera because I was listening to an audiobook, and when I record, I can't listen, so I decided I would just show the after results. I took down all the rails, or most of the rails, so to have room to work under there. And then I'll put it all back together once I get it fit. Okay, so when I put that up there, it was that this was too long. So I have bent this around and bent that up. And you can see how precise my metal bending is because I got that gap. But I don't know if that'll matter. If it does, I'm going to fill it with some silicone caulking. And then just to get them to hold together, I drew that hole through and put in this little number, I think it's number 440 screw through there with some double nuts and a spring washer. So let's try getting that in, see if it fits. Well, gotta take a 1/4 inch off the tail right over on this end. All right, I'll be back after I get that little corner snipped out. I don't know if that is focused or not, but that's what I'm gonna cut off. And there's that. So that little saber saw with the middle cutting blade, if you push it too hard, the teeth catch, and then that flimsy metal just vibrates. So I had to go very slow, just take little itty bitty bites with each stroke, and with that I was able to get a nice curved surface. Let me go back over and see if I can get it to fit. Let me show you my next challenge. So I put these, I tried to make it roughly a 10-inch interval, but I don't think it's exact because by the time I got underneath here and was drilling and everything, I don't think it's quite perfect. So I had made some holes for the cardboard pattern. I'm going to confirm that again and then also measure it out, and I'll probably also make the holes through the sheet metal a little bit oversized so I have a little bit of play. I measured underneath there as best I could. I measured where I thought it would start from, and it was 5 inches, and then it was just off by between an 1/8 and a 1/16 of 10 inches. And I measured all of them from here, but this thing was flimsy. Trying to hold it up there while measuring it, and it was dark, and so trying to hold the flashlight. So I don't know exactly how accurate I'm gonna be. I'll make my holes just a little big. Let's see if that fits. It's dark as a pocket back over here. This thing isn't heavy, but it's awkward. It kind of went in and then it just pulled out. So I don't know if I'm gonna need longer sheet metal screws or what. Oh, this is such an awkward height. Well, I can see all the screw holes through there, so the alignment is right. Now I just have to see if I get screws in there. The number 3 went in. Let's try moving number 2 is one that's pulling out. So let's try putting 2 up to 1. Now they're gonna have to be longer. Okay. This is what it looks like from the front, and I'm gonna come in and paint that. I'm hoping that the galvanized doesn't affect the painting. Here it is from the back. It's drooping down a little bit on the back side because it doesn't have the supports. I swapped out my machine screws, swapped them out from 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch. I got the 4 places there. Now if you notice it's still tight up in that corner. So when I take it back out, I'm going to cut that away more so that it's not jammed up in there. I've put the bottom rail back in, and it looks like there's gonna be maybe 3/8 or a 1/2 inch gap there. So on this side, it's still flexible because I haven't put any screw holes. So this length here is adjustable. I think I may have to shorten that piece a little bit just to bring it in closer. But I'll also need to look and to see how that affects whether this is going to be vertical or not. So I may have to just put some spacers between the back of this fold and the uprights so that when it clamps on, and that may well be what I do. Because I think that this, because this here is fixed and this is fixed, I mean, unless I want to go and reprint that with a smaller amount of space there. And if I'm going to have that be vertical, then I think that sets this distance here. And I think I want to try to get some foam to go along here. I think it'll fit in there just to keep it from not scratching it up so much. It's already scratched some on that headstock bell. Okay, I used my angle grinder with a wire wheel and tried to wire wheel this as best I could. I read online that the galvanized part prevents oil-based paints from sticking that well. So I'm hoping that I've got it cleaned off enough. It was pouring down rain here a few minutes ago. All right, I'm gonna try to spray paint this. Did I mention that it was raining? It's pouring down. Oh, there's a spider coming down in front of me. I don't think it'll show up there. All right, go away, spider. So I got this painted and it's mostly out of the rain. I think it'll be fine. I'm gonna leave it here. I just spray painted it. I think it was a flat, 2-3 coats on each one light, so I think that'll be all we'll do. Oh my, is it raining? This is the back side of the pan, and that original satin, it's got some of the original metal showing through. So I'm just gonna hit it with one more coat, and this is a gloss black. I think I already got this front, but it won't hurt to have another one. All right, we'll let that dry. Have you ever put together one of those IKEA furniture things and the instructions are all confusing and it just doesn't seem to go together right, and you're like, man, if I could only get my hands on the guy that designed this thing. Well, that guy's me for this thing. Let me show you. I did get it working, but let me show you what all I've got going. So here it is. I've got the pan in place. I've got the horizontal supports fastened in. I've got all the pieces fit there. I've got all the uprights fastened in, and I made sure that they were vertical with a spirit level. So the issues that I'm having, and they're not huge issues, but if you look back here, that end there looks like it's too high, but these two pieces are exactly the same length. So the only thing I could think is that it's somehow tilted this way and it needs to kind of go back like that. Now, if I go back like that, it kind of torques all of this out, which may not be the end of the world. I've thought maybe about fastening something like a wire from here to there and just cinching it up to kind of pull that in, because right now it doesn't have any way to support it. The other option would be to make a fastener between here and this piece, but that's going to involve drilling another hole into the casting, which I would prefer not to do if I could get away with it. The other thing is, a lot of this has just been kind of done by sight, and I don't know if it's showing up right now. Maybe it is, and I can't see it on the camera, but before it looked like that far end was out just a little bit longer, like that piece going between the corner and the casting needed to be a little shorter. But overall, I think it's good. I've got these pieces here that just slide down, and I'm gonna get holes drilled into the pan to connect into them. And then I'll be ready to put the vertical sheets in. So I think we're making good progress. We took a quick day trip to Bays Mountain, which is a local scenic area that has some nice water. You can see some of the fall colors coming out. It's looking nice. So this pan down here is too small for me to get my drill in to drill the holes through. So I inherited this from my dad, this boondoggle of a device. It's a right angle drill adapter. It seems to be the right tool for the job because it's working. Let me show you. It's not as compact as I wish it was. It has like a 2-to-1 reduction, which I wish it didn't have. All right, now I'm going to line up that hole with the hole in my block here, and then drill all the way through. It's not super compact, but it is shorter than this distance on this big old drill. So in this case, it's getting the job done, although I wish it could be more compact. All right. Starting to feel like fall. Just getting a little bit of the trees turning. It's a beautiful day out. Okay, I'm working on the uprights for the back piece. And I went down to where I did my welding class, and they have a press brake, which is a real big, strong thing, and it can bend sheet metal. And I got the major folds done, but then I need these little tabs folded at the end. So I put that in basically my vise and hammered it over. So that's one corner. I'm gonna do the other corner here on camera. So it's just gonna basically bend it over. I have to get a little creative here. Looks like so I did this tab first, but then that tab is preventing me from folding this in very easily. I think I'm gonna have to bend that back, and then I can do the other one first. So maybe it's gonna break, but if it does, it's okay. That. Now I'm going to bend that tab in. And I really want this thing to be under this tab, so I'm going to see what I can do here. Make a mess is what I'm going to do. Let's see if I can squish that all together. If you haven't figured it out, this is like the first time I've worked with sheet metal, so if I got any viewers that are better at this, I'm all ears to listen to suggestions. There. It's not bad. All right, I think that looks good. So this thing's a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle where things got to be put in a certain order. It seems like maybe it will slide straight down, but it seemed like I was having to have it in at an angle, but let me see if it'll just fit in here. Yeah, so it's catching right here, so I have to kind of nose under it. But then it's also got a lip down here, so. Nope, this corner's got to go in first. That's why I had to take this off so that it would slide under it. Coming back to me now. Come on. Looks like I need to take a ½ inch off. I don't know that there's any other way around that, because that's in there as far as it can go. Yep, I gotta take another ½ inch off. Scuffing everything up. I'm gonna have to come back and touch up all my paint when I'm done. As far as the thickness of this stuff, I don't know if that shows, but it's reading 36.5 thou. I can try to look up what gauge that is later. There we go. Okay, now got to figure out how to put holes into my supports so that they all match up. Well, I think that'll go good. Okay, I'll show you what I've got. And I apologize for the cramped angle. So there'll be this upright will go right here, there, and down. Now, one of the issues is that when I fold it in this corner, I needed a way to keep it together. So I put in these little screws, but then those heads are kind of catching a little bit in there. So I could theoretically just come all the way through, and I may decide to do that. I had to cut off this tail so that it you know, because when this thing first was here, this went all the way down to the bottom and then it interfered here. So I had to cut that off and try to get it to the right height. All right, if you notice that it's in a ways there, you know, I got 2 fingers there, but I can reach in and push it back. Let me get that piece that just fell. This piece. So this will go here like this, like there. And then when that should come back and space it to right about like that. And it should fit in nicely and match up with down here. So now this thing's gonna have to be painted before it all goes in. So I need to get it lined up, get my holes drilled, then take it out, then paint it, and then get it all back together. As far as to drill my holes, you know, it's hard to know to do it blind here. So I think I'm going to try to push it up here and draw a line on both sides and then take it out and then drill holes in it based on those lines. And what could go wrong with that, right? And then for the corners, let's see, the corners, I made these pieces like this, that I'm hoping that is gapped out the right amount that it's gonna need. If you can see that, just about lines up with that right there. So, all right, now I have these vertical uprights. I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3, 4. In all her beauty. Got all my holes measured and drilled. Who wants to bet whether they'll fit or not? It is what it is.
Many tic-tacs later.
Okay, let me show where we left off. We've got that piece attached. We've got the front, this left side panel was done before. This right side panel I've now got done. I have to touch up some of the scratches, and we worked on this corner. I had to print some more of these attachment parts, you know, for here, and there was a couple places in the back. We also then made this, got my son to make a cardboard model for it, and that's gonna go right up underneath there, and then I'm gonna paint it the same color as the light color there. And so I'll need to get the holes drilled for mounting it. Okay, I've got all the bolts in, all the screws. I've got that piece down there mounted. It's still got the primer on it. Is it perfect? No. Will it stop chips? I think so. A lot harder job than I thought it was gonna be at the beginning. But I'm gonna put a little bit of paint on that lower part, and then I'm gonna be done. There, I've got it painted. I may need to come back and do a second coat. I'll have to take a look after it dries. Okay, my friends, it is done. I touched up all the scratch points and I tabbed over the shiny silver screws so it's not so prominent there. And I looked down here and I'm satisfied with that. I don't think it needs a second coat. And I think I'm happy with that overall. There are a couple things that I think I could maybe do to improve it. Maybe 3D print some corner pieces to cover the area of, you know, when you have the corner of the sheet metal, it leaves a little square that doesn't have any metal right there. And I thought I could maybe make a 3D cover to go over that. I like it. Okay, I did make some caps. I think they look nice. And that means this project is done. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you found that informational or at least entertaining in case you ever want to make a similar chip guard for your lathe. If you do, I'd love to hear about it. Send me some comments. Also, if you liked it, if you could give it a thumbs up, it helps the engine, then recommend this to some other people. I'm not really in this to make a big mega channel, but you know, I put some work into this and I'd love to have other people see it. If you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. I'm a small channel. I should be able to respond to pretty much everyone. All right, thanks.
Peace out.